Everybody. It's so good to see everybody tonight with us here. And we're just so glad you're here. Now, listen, I got a text this week, Terry, and I relayed that text on another Facebook page that I have, but I want to relate it to everybody here before we get started deep within our class, our meeting tonight. Isn't it wonderful to know that following Torah, you can become a righteous individual without the aid of a religion? It is, and it's so satisfying. It's so free. So I want to say that. So without further ado, hello everybody coming to us by way of Power Faith Radio. We're so glad to have you here tonight. We got quite a few, and the Georgia people texted me, Terry, and said they want us to announce that they are here tonight, and they've got 39 people sitting in the living room tonight listening to us. So we want to welcome our Georgia people. We also met some people this week up state from us up next to Jefferson City, and we gave them the links to kind of join in to participate tonight. So we hope they're listening and participating. So we're glad to have them with us tonight, and with hundreds and thousands of others by Power Faith Radio. Those of you that are joining us tonight by Outreach Noah on the YouTube channel, we want to thank you for coming this way tonight. We ask that you subscribe to that channel, hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up, and share that video with all your social media platform. Also, we want to thank those of you that are joining tonight by a simple walk. Same thing, please. Join that group, share that video with all your social media platform, comment there, because Amuela and Galaxy A12 tonight, yeah, that's Thomas, and they're kind of monitoring those, and they'll bring those questions on over. Also through, Thomas is not, Galaxy A12 is not monitoring tonight, but we'll take care of that. And those of you listening by B'nai Noach Fellowship, same thing. Please comment. Let us know you're there. We appreciate you coming. We can see the numbers of you being there, but we don't know who you are until you comment. Okay, did I get all those in, Terry?
Yeah, I guess you did.
Okay.
Well, now, wait a minute. You didn't make the announcement.
What? About next week?
No.
What announcement?
Coming from the foothills.
Oh, broadcasting from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee. You're listening to Power Faith Radio. So there we go. Okay.
There you go.
And I
just like to hear you say that.
All right, Terry, if you want to greet the people in the Zoom room tonight, and I will get ready for our Tzedakah time. How about that?
That will work. Good evening and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at in the world. Thank you for joining us again tonight. Tonight for us, or this evening for us here in the eastern United States. And Scotty named all the platforms. We're growing, Scotty. I'm not going to attempt to go back through the list. It's Hashem has been really good. Before we get started in tonight we are going to be doing Abraham's Righteous Man Part 3, and tonight, Hashem willing, we will complete this little series. We're going to be getting into the nuts and bolts a little bit about what Abraham was looking for. There's some things that's in the Hebrew that's not in the English that we're going to get into. That's exciting for me. It's exciting. I'm always enjoying finding those things. But a few announcements. We will be, like I said, Hashem willing, we'll be completing this series tonight. Next week, we're going to do something a little bit different. The reason why is the next week, was it the 27th, Scotty? I think it's the 27th. Wednesday the 27th, we will not be having class. Scotty's got to be out of town with his job, and we're going to take a break. It's good every now and then to take a break, and gives me a little bit of time to start digging into a few things. But next week, Scotty has been receiving various questions and things, and we're going to take some time next week to discuss some of those and kind of have a Q&A style type where Scotty will be asking the questions and we'll be discussing them the things that y'all have sent in that maybe we haven't discussed during our class, or we maybe give some more in depth on some questions that's been asked. Then, like I said, the 27th, we'll take a break. Then coming back should be the first Wednesday of August.
3rd, yes. It's on the 3rd.
Yeah, the August 3rd. We're going to start a new series that's kind of really going to bounce off the one we're doing now. I'm going to be going through a very, very, very interesting and very good article. Scotty and I are going to be covering this as we come out of Abraham's righteous man. Is the 7 laws for a beautiful planet, and it's written by a very good writer from Chabad.org. I've been in contact with them this week, and I've received permission from them, copyright permission, to cover this letter or article. Word for word, and to discuss it. And I copied it off. It's roughly about 9-10 pages, so it's going to take us probably a week or two, maybe, to go through that. It depends on how deep our discussions goes and everything. So we're looking forward to that for next month, our next little bitty series. And it's going to be, like I said, we're going to be talking about Abraham's righteous man. Then we're going to be talking about the righteousness and the lifestyle of such a person in the next series. Scotty, you about ready for Tzedakah?
Give me just a minute. I've decided I need a cough drop.
Just started again.
So give me just a minute. This is live. It isn't Memorex.
It's not
Memorex.
Told my age, didn't I? Just told her age, yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm ready for Tzedakah time, and we're so glad we had quite a few participants in our Tzedakah time tonight. And we're going to start with those that we'd love to see a total healing, total restoration, strengthened, all of those things, all of the above. So we're going to start with that tonight. As always, we always give Tzedakah tonight for our teacher, our Rabbi Pesach Sherbo, giving Tzedakah for Pesach tonight. Also, Sharon Garland, that's my wife's sister-in-law. We're giving Tzedakah for her tonight. Also, if I'm pronouncing these names correctly, Tamara Blecker. I think I pronounced that name correctly. We're giving Tzedakah for her tonight. Also, Ernie Kessler, that is my uncle on my dad's side. We're giving Tzedakah for him tonight. He had knee replacement. Also, Tanya Coffin, we're giving Tzedakah for her tonight. I don't want to lose my place on the names here. Wayne Vivers, we're giving Tzedakah for Wayne Vivers tonight. I think I pronounced that correctly. We're giving Tzedakah there tonight. Amuela, someone always sends Tzedakah in for you, honey. This is your dollar sent here, and we're giving that into Tzedakah tonight. May you be blessed by that. Also, Ronald Dickman. I was talking to Ronald just before a meeting tonight, and he's waiting on the doctor visit to give him results on his, they shot him full of radiation. Is that what they did, Ron? They shot you full of radiation?
Yes, it's to do a stress test on the heart. My doctor, excuse me, didn't think I would handle the treadmill workout that they give you, so we did it a cheat's way with radiation, and it makes the heart race to the point that you would if they got you on a treadmill for 10 minutes or more.
I think. Well, I've never had that test, but I think I'm going to try the treadmill before I shoot the radiation. Anyway,
that's. I was wondering where that halo, that glow, that's
Yeah, he's kind of glowing tonight. I've noticed that the light. Have you got a light on tonight, Ronald?
No, I can't work it out. It's always on one side. Sometimes it's the monitor on the other computer. I closed the curtain as we started, and it didn't make any difference. I don't know what it is. I just can't get an even colour, lighting in here.
I think the glow is coming from you, Ronald. So all right. Also, we're going to give Tzedakah tonight for Wendell and Mary Parsons. Wendell, real quick, can you give us an update on your wife?
Yeah, she has a CAT scan scheduled for next week, and then once the doctor pinpoints what he wants to do with that, then she'll begin 6 weeks of radiation.
Okay, okay. We're giving Sadaka there. Matter of fact, we're going to do that one more time. We're going to give Sadaka again for that full recovery. Also, Bria Warnstaff, we're giving Sadaka for her tonight. And also David Brimmer, giving Sadaka for David Brimmer tonight. Also, Thomas Schaus. Thomas, somebody always sends $1 in for you. This is your dollar, and we're giving it in Sadaka. May you be blessed tonight. Also, Ronnie Suits. How is he doing, Terry?
He's doing pretty good. It's just this hot weather. For those who doesn't know, he's a COVID survivor. He had COVID pneumonia. He's 75, and it destroyed the top part of his lungs. Are almost solid. So this high humid and heat, he can't breathe. So he's actually because we work in a parts warehouse and it's hot and it's humid in there, and so he's talking about maybe eventually taking some leave off during this because July and August is horrible in there, and maybe coming back, as fall starts coming on, it's easier on him.
Right.
Because when he can't breathe, then it makes him dizzy and stuff because he doesn't get the oxygen he needs.
Right. So we're going
to. But other than that, he's doing really well.
Great. We're going to continue to give Sadaka for him. Also, Carol St. George, we're giving Sadaka for her tonight. So now let me get it over to our birthdays. I don't know if I'm getting better at this or longer at this.
Or you just used to it now, aren't you?
I'm getting a little bit more used to it. I told him last week, Chrissy, that it's not that I can't read the names. I can't read my writing. So that's the issue. So all right. So our birthdays this since last Wednesday is Diana Rice had a birthday this past week, and also Rabbi Michael Shlomo Barone. Did I do that right, or did I do that right?
No, you did it right.
He had a birthday this week, so isn't it great when you can be proud of yourself for saying a name correctly? So, also Tanya Helton had a birthday this week. We're giving Sadaka for her, and also Travis Cox had a birthday this week. We're giving Sadaka for him. Our box is getting full. I'm going to have to kind of move some of that over. Benny Torres had a birthday this week, and also Rabbi Moshe Peretz had a birthday this week. Let me get that in there. Now, our blessed memory this week is for Daryl Moore. His birthday is tomorrow, and Daryl and I were the same age, just about. We're one month apart on our age, and tomorrow is his birthday, and we're giving Sadaka today in blessed memory of Daryl Moore. His mother asked that we do that, and I count it a great privilege. Remember, all names that are mentioned tonight, we are doing this meeting, this class, for their merit and recovery. And so we thank you so much for those of you that participated in Sadaka time. All right, Terry, are you about ready to start up?
We'll see what we can get ourselves into here a little bit.
Okay.
All right. As I was going through things again this morning, it's interesting. Almost every time I sit down and start going through it, I say, "Oh, I need to add this, do this." It's one of the benefits, not one of the pleasures. Let me put it that way, of studying. Sometimes I come in here in the mornings, and I'm reading and I'm studying, and then I tell my wife, I said, "I've got myself in trouble again. I don't want to go to work, because as soon as I go to work, I can't come home and pick up where I was at." That feeling that where your mind is at and where you're studying, things are flowing, and it's just like getting out of the canoe and back on the bank again. You lose that little flow. But that's one of the things I enjoy. I enjoy studying. I didn't grow up that way. not in a negative sense, but my family wasn't an education style type family where going to school and stuff was important. What was important was going, getting a job, paying your bills, and taking care of your family. You know, both my parents came from Kentucky farmers. That's what, they grew up with that, and my daughter, I think, would be the first one on my side of the family. Actually, the first one went to college, and she's actually 4 years away from getting her doctorate if she chooses to do it in marketing, business and marketing. And so it's really nice. But what got me, the reason why I love studying the way I do, especially Hebrew scriptures, is when, I'll be honest with you, when I met my first, Jewish man, and I'd go to his house and sit and learn. And the style of learning, and see, the reason why some people are intimidated by the Jews, because their life is study. Their life is studying. And they're raised from that, from pretty much from the time they take their first breath. And I learned a lot about studying from him, and it intrigued me. And we get into things, and I didn't know that was in me, and I love it. It just, those of you that kind of study from that same kind of direction, I know, studying with some of the Jewish people, and it's different. It's the Torah. The Torah has a complete different language than the religions of the world, because it's not a religion. But the language, and I know Chrissy, and y'all know what I'm talking about, it has its own language. And sometimes people try to mix from Western and Eastern and religions and things in with it, and it doesn't jive. And it has its own language. And when you begin to learn that language of the Torah and the way it is to be studied and learned, it can be addictive. At least it is for me. So tonight, I saw a quote this week that reminded that I'd heard of for a long time. And when I say this, y'all have heard it. But I kind of wanted to start out tonight, as before we get into Abraham's righteous man. It's this: a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And that's what being the righteous of the Creator is. It's a journey. It's a journey. It begins with a single step. You're going to go through a lot of different things. Some good, some not so good. I mean, meaning not so good is there's some times you're going to get hurt. There's some times that you're going to be down. Then there's times you're riding in the clouds. But it all begins with a single step. And each one of us, that path it's the same path, but it can take a different look. For me, in 1990, up until 1995, I was born and raised in a particular denomination. And in that denomination, I didn't have any reason to question. I was born and raised in it. And they told us, this is what you do, this is what you believe, and you went on. And I'd still probably be there today if that denomination hadn't imploded in 1995. It began my journey. It began my journey of 1,000 miles, if you want to say. That was my starting point. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't have anybody to tell me what to believe and what to do. I had to start finding out myself. And it's a joyful journey. It's a joyful journey. Learning to become the righteous that the Creator wants us to be. And again, righteous, I know a lot of people have a different understandings. But the main understanding you need to understand, it's not a religious word. It's been religized, if I can create a new word, by religions of the world. It's not a religious word. The Creator made man. His very first encounter with the relationship between God and man, is the Creator gave him an instruction. He didn't give him a religion. He gave him an instruction. And that's all it is. Is our walk with the Creator is we draw close to Him through the observance of instructions. We separate ourselves from Him when we walk away from those instructions. And that's what the righteous man of Abraham, what he was looking for. And so to become that, again, it's like a journey of 1,000 miles. It begins with a single step. No matter how small a step, it begins with a single step. When you start turning your heart toward in your mind toward the Torah of the Creator, the very words that he gave at Mount Sinai, that's a major step. And tonight is no different. We're going to look at Genesis chapter 18. We're going to start in verse 23. It says, Abraham came forward and said, will you go and stamp out or destroy? The word, I think, is actually in Hebrew, means destroy. The righteous among the wicked. And what we've been talking to up until this point, we were understanding why Abraham knew what to look for when he asked the question of the righteous of Sodom. Because when we discussed, because he taught his children the way of God, tzedakah and justice, and because he commanded his children that, the Creator let him know what he was going to do. And so Abraham knew what a righteous walk was, and what we call in English a righteous walk. It says in the following verse, this is from the Art Scroll. In the following verse, Abraham exemplifies his new role as father of the multitudes of the nations in a most sublime and noble form. Even the wicked inhabitants of Sodom will embrace his sympathy, and he overflows with sorrow over their impending doom. His intercession on their behalf demonstrates his cognizance of the need for both justice and mercy. And sometimes when you're looking at a wicked situation like the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, and you look at our own nations now, not just cities, but nations, and we see the wickedness, it's hard to have sorrow over it. If you're anything, especially those of us here in the South, we're very patriotic. We deal with a lot of anger with what's going on. Yes, and we deal with sadness of what's going on with our country and what's going on in the world. But sometimes I find myself, getting angry before I get sorrowful. But Abraham was different. He is the role model. He recognized that only through merit could the wicked be saved. Nevertheless, he felt anguish at the thought that human beings were about to perish. I've really thought about that right there a lot this week, because I'll be honest with you, I lack in that area, because I'm one of those that gets upset at things that's going on in our country and around the world. That pure evil and wickedness, it seems to be. My wife and I were talking about it on the way home, how it seems to be they're winning. And we got to talking about how interesting the state, I'm talking about our country, the state of our country is, because we started following this guy on Instagram. My wife actually found him and started. He's hilarious, but he is serious. He's outspoken. He's outspoken enough the national news has actually interviewed him. It's weird because he considers himself a gay Christian. And he's very strong in his beliefs, but yet he has that particular lifestyle that many of us wouldn't agree with. But to tell you how upside down our world has become, this man's right. He does a lot of good. A lot of good. Like, here the other day he was talking about, he says he's got money. It cost him $98 to fill up his Jeep. But he says, but I got money. I'm not worried about it. But the woman next to me, he goes, in one of his little video clips, but she could only afford $20. So I gave her $10 more put in her tank. He goes out and he does good things. And the things he speaks about is the things that we ought to be speaking about in our nations, in our lands. And he's very outspoken about these things. He's very anti-LGBTQ thing, the alphabet group. He's very anti the pride. He's anti all of these, everybody giving everybody a month to celebrate this and that. And he's very anti that, And it's very interesting to listen to how, I told myself, how upside down when we've got someone who we would consider not living a moral lifestyle is the one who's actually speaking the most and actually saying what's right. It's weird right now. And so it was weird in Sodom and Gomorrah. But so much religion has dealt with the issues of the sexual immorality going on there, but yet that wasn't the sin that brought their destruction. As we've read before in Ezekiel 16:49, the sin of Sodom was injustice, of charity. They had laws against charity. And that's what brought the destruction down, because they hated charity. And we learned about the girl that gave bread to a poor hungry person, was put on the wall and covered in honey, and the bees ate her. And when I know I read these things when people are saying that the United States has become like Sodom because they've allowed same-sex marriages, but that's not what caused Sodom to be destroyed. Was it evil? Was it bad? Yeah, it wasn't right. Wasn't necessarily right according to the laws of God. But every situation, like I've said before, when you got the flood, you got Nineveh, and you got Sodom, every situation was Hamas. It was injustice from man against man, is when you make daddy mad enough that he has to get his belt out. I'm just going to talk like a Southerner. Yeah, the kids may not have been doing things necessarily right, but the belt didn't come through the belt loops until the kids got in a fight, treated each other wrong. And that's when he steps out, and that's what he did with Sodom. And that's what we've been learning about Abraham's righteous man. It says Abraham drew near. I said Abraham's righteous man. In verse 23 it says, Abraham came forward. It literally means he drew near. Now here's what's interesting. In this verse, the word is vayigash, to draw near. And what's really interesting here is that the sages, the great Torah sages, in this section of passages here from verse 23 all the way through 27, in this drawing near, Abraham done three things. He was angry with God, and he drew near like in battle. Like in 2 Samuel 10:13. And Joab and the people that were with him drew near forward to battle against the Arameans. This is in verse 25. 25. It would be sacrilege to you to do such a thing, to bring death upon the righteous along with the wicked. This was doing battle. He came before the Creator when he drew near like a soldier marching upon a city. In verse 27, it was appeasement. He appeased the Creator. It says, Abraham answered and said, behold, now I desire to speak to my master. He appeased him. Then verses 23 and 24, and it is prayer. It is prayer. Like in Kings when it says, and it was when the evening sacrifice was offered, and Elijah the prophet came near and said, Master, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, today let it be known. He was in prayer. So it says here, it says, will you also, destroy the righteous along with the wicked? What if there were 50 righteous people in the city, in the midst of the city? Would you destroy them? So here we have in verses 23 through 27, with the word Vagash, we have Abraham approaching the Creator as a soldier does upon a city in battle. He approaches him in appeasement, and he approaches him in prayer. All at the same time. And here's what's interesting. Remember, if those of you that's been with us for a while, we always bring up when the first thing is mentioned in the Torah, that is the foundation of that passage. We went to the first time righteous is mentioned is in Genesis chapter 6, verse 9, when God called Noah righteous. I understand here we have a first as well. And to bring back, please remember that this is what God was giving Moses to write down and deliver to Israel. This isn't just a story for Sunday school and just kids' classes. This is here for us to learn a lesson from. Verse 23 and 24. It says, will you also? It's prayer. He's coming before the Creator on behalf of Sodom. And it says here, this is the very first time we find one man praying on behalf of another. From this point, all the way back to Genesis 1:1, we do not find man praying for man. This is the first time. Abraham mustered all of his inner resources, having no precedent to look back upon, both his gentle and hard qualities, to intercede on the behalf of the inhabitants of Sodom. He did not want to see those cities destroyed. He anguished at the thought of human beings perishing. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This is something we lack today. I lack. Let me just say, I'm speaking from personal experience. That I lack the anguishing. See, we're so used to religion in my part of the world. See, when I was associate pastor of a particular Pentecostal denomination, when I became credentialed in the denomination and start going to the state ministers' meetings, and I got issued these little booklets. I had these forms I had to fill out every month. That bothered me from day one. Actually, it became one of the driving points of me pulling out of the ministry, because I couldn't handle it anymore. Every month I had to fill out in a triple format in these little books and mail it in to the state offices. How many people did you save? Did you get saved? How many people did you get filled and baptized in the Holy Ghost? All these notches on your belt, but there's not one thing in those forms every month about anguishing for human beings. It was keeping notches in your belt. And I would go to the state meetings. I was told I needed to shake hands and kiss babies if I wanted to work up the ladder. And I'm like, it's not what I'm going to hear. It's what I'm going to do. All this stuff eventually drove me away, because it's not the way of God. It's not the way of God. I eventually After about 3.5 years, I told my wife, I said, I can't take this no more. That's not why I was doing what I was doing. And as I studied this subject about Abraham anguishing, so many people go out and try to get people into a religion. They don't have no concern for that person. How do I know that? Because when I chose 20 years ago to start studying the Torah, that eventually led me into some major decisions in my life. People that I've known for a very long time, some people I'd actually done marital counseling with, and saved them and helped save the marriage. They turned their backs on me and walked away and hadn't said a word to me in almost 20 years. Because I didn't believe the way they believed anymore. Where's that anguishing for the people? I kind of feel people out. I don't go out. I don't proselyte anything. I do like to share stuff, but not from a proselyting viewpoint. I get excited about what I learn and I want to share it. And so I test the waters. I tested the waters here a while back. And now there's a person that doesn't even speak to me except for just business-wise. Because I'm not like their religion. There's this thing about casting out, ignoring, turning your back on those that ain't like you. That's wrong. Abraham was nothing like the people of Sodom, and he anguished, and he went and did battle with the Creator. He was the first one that prayed for the mankind, people he didn't even know. He appeased God. Has nothing to do with religion. He knew they wasn't living right, but he didn't bring that up against. He didn't want the righteous to perish with the wicked, but he wanted the wicked to survive, to give an opportunity to repent. He had hope for them. He says, and what if there should be 50 righteous people in the midst of the city? Now, when we studied Jonah, we know that Jonah went into the midst of the city to deliver the message. In that particular reference, in that grammatical reference there, it was a location. He went to a place within the city. It was a location. The midst meant in the middle of the city. Here, the words that is translated in the midst of the city does not mean that. It means that the righteous person, the God-fearing people, are not only in the safety and privacy of their home, they're not righteous just in their home. They're out being active in their community and helping others try to learn what is the right and moral pathway. But if the moral climate of a city as such forces a righteous person into seclusion, then the city is not worth being saved by virtue of a handful of few men whose secluded life is within it. Now, what's interesting, when it says right here, and this is one of those things you're not going to read in English. You can't find it out in English. And this is why it's important to understand that the Creator told Moses what to write down. Because this is one of those times. There's several throughout the Torah, matter of fact, to where the Creator told Moses to alter the spelling of a word. And that spelling here, it says, for the sake of 50 righteous. The word is righteous. The Midrash notes that whenever the word righteous, which is tzadikim, in Hebrew tzadikim, which is spelled tzadi, tzadi, dalet, yud, kaf, yud, mem. When it is used in the connection with Sodom, it is spelled defectively. It is pronounced tzadikim, or actually, how would you say this? That's tzadikim. Yeah, no, it's tzadikim. I was looking, I didn't see the one vowel point there. But it is spelled tzadi, dalet, yud, kaf, mem. It's missing the second yud. Without the second yud, it indicates that their righteousness, they were righteous, but it was doubtful and defective. Abraham's request, for the sake of 50 righteous, and he keeps on going down because the word righteous from this point on is spelled this way in the Hebrew. Abraham's request was that if it was even such an inferior righteousness could be found in 50 people, all the towns should be saved in their merit. So Abraham wasn't looking for, quote, 50 holy rollers and holier than thou people. He was looking for people who were trying to live right, but the righteousness was defective in some places. It was defective and maybe even doubtful because of their surroundings. I mean, how many times we have doubt about, the righteous things of God in such a society that we live in today around the world. It's easy when you're surrounded by it. Another Torah sage says this. He says, following the question, if there are 50 people whose righteousness is only relative, in the midst of the city, meaning that they were in communication with and partners with and just good neighbors with everybody else, in comparison with the rest of the population, would they be prone to indiscriminate punishment by the wicked people? In the footnote, it says, Abraham knew very well that there were no truly righteous people in Sodom. It's interesting. He already knew this, but he still went and he battled with the Creator for the cities. If Lot was the greatest among them, and Abraham was painfully aware of Lot's shortcomings, how righteous could the others be? However, Abraham was also convinced that no matter how immersed Lot had become in the evil ways of Sodom, he could not have become deserving of destruction. Abraham thought that there must be others who were similar to Lot. That there were similar people who submitted to the wrongdoers as long as they were ascendant, but who could be saved. If Sodom was punished rather than destroyed, people would then be given the opportunity for repentance. So at least Abraham was looking for looking that those would be just punished and not destroyed. Now I want to look at pretty much the same verses again, but through the teachings of Rabbi Hirsch, because they're just... again, I like studying his because he gets into the different Hebrew, and he breaks things down and takes you to different areas with the same way the text is used to gain deeper understanding. Rabbi Hirsch says Abraham, like we said before, knows the nature of the righteous. We talked about this the last 2 days. How did Abraham know what the nature of the righteous was? God saw that he knew it because he did it with his family and his household. Those is his servants, maid servants, and manservants, and all those who actually worked for him. He knows how he would feel were he to stand in the place of an individual who merits to save himself from destruction that befalls the rest of the community. Abraham thinks that had it been his bitter fate to live in Sodom, he would have spared no effort and would have worked unceasingly to better his fellow citizens and countrymen who had deviated from the path. You see, this path that we talk about, it's a very ancient path. It's the original path, the first path. Goes all the way back to the garden. Comes through Noah. Then down through Shem to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is the original path. It's the path in which Mount Sinai stands on. That's what we talk about here at Outreach Noah. One of our goals is this very thing, is to help better our fellow human beings, humanity, and countrymen, wherever you're at, whatever country you're in, to help help others that have deviated from the path, not to convert them to a religion, not to knock on their door and ask where they're going to spend eternity. Eternity has nothing to do with this right here, right now. It does in the long run, but it's not the goal. The goal is that we are to settle the earth and to build civilized, moral communities. That is the goal of the non-Jew. As I've spoken in the past, and we're talking about species, the Rabbi Hirsch teaches out of Genesis 1 verse 11 and 12. The Jew has their mission and we have ours. How do we know that? Well, we can learn it from the beginning. God created man. Out of man, he took a woman. She's still human. Still lives by the same laws that the man lives by. But in her body and her design, she has laws in which Adam didn't have. She had monthlies. She had everything in it. She had all of humanity inside of her. The eggs. She gave birth. And there are eternal laws that God built within her for her to operate as a woman that the man doesn't have. But they both live by the same base rules. Well, God did that again. From out of man, he took Israel. And he created Israel as a priestly nation. And that priestly nation, like the woman, stands on the same base rules as the rest of us does. But that nation has another set of rules. It's all part of the same set. But their rules now is that like the woman was made to be the helpmate of man, to be his helper, Israel is to be the helpmate of the nations, to be the light unto the nations. They are giving laws from within themselves that affects their mind, their bodies, and everything that's within them, just like the woman, yes, still human, but now they have these additional laws that are going on inside of them that helps them be the priest, just like a woman is helped to be a woman. And so they have their laws to help them be the priesthood. Well, we're not the priesthood. We're humanity. We're the rest of the humans, the non-Jewish part of humans, of humankind. And we have a set of laws, these base laws. These are our laws. And they're designed for us to live in the world, no matter where you're at. That's why if you have people living in the islands and up in the Antarctic and things like that, they can't keep the kosher laws of the Jews. That food's not available. They'd starve to death. Even Rabbi Singer says that they'd starve to death. And then but all of our base laws are the same. Don't murder. Don't steal. Don't have forbidden sexual relations. Don't eat meat taken from a living animal. All of these are the same no matter where you're at. Because that's who we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be settling the earth. We are the largest part of the creation. There's so many, when they start walking this ancient path, feels like, well, I'm second class. Now, wait a minute here. You're not second class. Does God have a second class? No. He has the priesthood that lives in the castle with him, but the rest of us are out here in the kingdom making sure the kingdom is run right. And they're the people in the castle are there to help us understand what we're supposed to be doing out here. And that's what the righteous of the nations is. They're in the communities where they're at, no matter what country they're in, what culture they're in. They're helping their fellow countrymen that have strayed from the ancient path to get back on the path. And this path does not detract away from any customs unless they're against God. And that's the beauty of this. And it says, and Abraham would never have given up hope, even on the verge of annihilation. And he would have suffered agony for the loss of every soul that he had hoped to work and to save. We're going to get into that here in just a second. Yes, he would have worked to save souls, but it is not the same as Western religion. Remember what I told you, the Torah has its own language. And when you try to understand the language of the Torah through another language, you're going to fall short. You're going to create something that wasn't there. Hence, Abraham now ponders the following. Shouldn't the pain of the righteous would have to endure at witnessing the tragic plight of their neighbors to be taken in consideration? Come on, think about it. I got my neighbors that live around me. Let's just say there's a wildfire that comes through here. And it's taking house after house, but for some reason it splits and goes around mine. Should I not anguish that my neighbors are losing everything that they have? All their memories, all their possessions, their life, their hopes, their desires, their dreams are now vanquished. They're gone. And I should stand there in callousness, though I might be saved from it? Abraham didn't want to do that. Abraham could have turned his back and walked on. He could have just kept obeying God. That's the difference between Abraham and Noah. Noah was a righteous man. But God said the end of the earth had come. And to him, well, there's nothing I can do. God's going to destroy the earth. He just kept obeying God and walking with God and got on the boat and went on while everybody perished. And the Torah sages teaches us that's the difference between Noah and Abraham. Abraham prayed for those who were about to perish. This is where we step it up. We take it up. We take it up a notch. Yes, we're called Noahides because the laws was given to Noah and passed down through him. They're named after him. But we take it. Abraham was one. He was a Noahide, but he took it up a next step. He started praying for the humanity around him. He's the first one that is noted by the Creator to have done such. Witness the subjecting of the righteous to the pain the punishing the righteous through the punishment of the wicked, isn't this consideration strong enough to bring God to look for the 50 righteous for the sake of the righteous, to spare them to the unbearable anguish, to pardon the whole condemned community, to save them, because it's like this story I've told before, and this kind of ties in here a little bit. When Israel was standing on the other, the sages teach us in their tradition that when Israel was standing on the other side of the bank of the Red Sea, and the Egyptian and the Egyptians and their horses and their chariots were perishing in the sea, Israel began to sing. And so the angels began to sing as well, and the Creator told the angels to stop singing. That is my creation that is perishing in the sea. I didn't save you, I saved Israel. They have a right to sing because they were saved from the situation. But he told the angels, don't you take rejoicing. Don't rejoice in the perishing of my creation. Though the creation had to perish, even the Creator does not. Matter of fact, in Ezekiel 18 says, do I desire the death of the wicked? No, he doesn't. He desires them to come to repentance. How's the wicked to come to repentance if there's no righteous to teach what repentance and what righteousness is? To understand what it means, again, about the midst of the city, it says the righteous man of Sodom was visualized by Abraham. This is his visualization of what a righteous person is. And for the whole sake of the community of sinners in which to be saved, he says, does not in haughtiness and arrogance abandon the masses. What happens when you as a religious person, and I'm using you as a broad stroke, not anybody in particular. What is it with these religious people who, when someone who tells them, I'm not of the same faith, and they turn around, they walk off and won't have nothing to do with them, they've been abandoned. Religion that teaches abandonment of the people because they don't believe the way you are, or maybe even live the way you are. I know people who are of the sexual persuasions that I don't agree with, but I don't abandon them. I don't have to agree with their lifestyle, but I don't abandon the human for religious sake or nothing. Because were they going to hear what righteousness is? How are they going to see what righteousness is if you abandon them? So the righteous man of Sodom wouldn't abandon the masses. He would not idly look on at the moral ruin of his fellow citizen. Nor does he isolate himself within his own four walls. What have I to do with others and their troubles? For my part, he says, I, for my part, have saved my own soul. Yes, you can save your own soul. Matter of fact, the words from God. Matter of fact, Ezekiel 1 says, and this is the word of the word of the Creator coming to him. These are the Creator's words, not the prophet's words. In Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 27. And if the wicked man turns away from his wickedness that he has done or did, again, wickedness and righteousness is a performance and is a doing, not a believing. You can't believe yourself into righteousness. You can only act yourself into wickedness and only act yourself into righteousness. This is from God, not me, not even the Torah sages. God himself says, as if the wicked man turns away from his wickedness that he did, and he does justice and righteousness, tzedakah and mishpat. This is the very thing God says, shall I not tell Abraham what I've done? Because I know him, because he commands his children the way of God, justice and righteousness. This is the way of God. If the wicked man stops what he is doing and he does the way of God, right here, this is God's words, guys. Not religion, not the Torah sages. This is God's word to the prophet Ezekiel. That the wicked that he did and performs justice and righteousness, he will cause his soul to live. In the Hebrew, it is Es Nafsho Yechaya. He will cause his soul to live. If you will stop doing that which is considered wicked, and you observe the tzedakah and mishpat. Tzedakah is charity or righteousness, doing that which is right. That's tzedakah. And justice, mishpat, is observance of the laws that creates a moral society, which is the 7 Noahide laws. Those are mishpatim. And so, yes, the righteous man, he asked, what have I to do with others? I've already saved my own soul. Yes, he saved his soul. But hear this. For if he does act this way, by this very behavior, he excludes himself from the category of the righteous. If you're so good that you think you saved your own self, even by your own righteous acts, and it makes you haughty, and you don't want to be in anguish and to help your fellow human being, you yourself have now become wicked, because the opposite of righteous is wickedness. Because it says right here, it says, for if he does act in this way, by this very behavior, he excludes himself from the category of righteous, since he does not fulfill the serious responsibility that devolves upon him in his particular environment. See, I can turn off this computer and I can go and I can live by the 7 laws right here and by myself. Don't say nothing to no one. But if I just did that, then I haven't accomplished anything. See, after studying and learning what the righteous man of Abraham would have looked like, I'll be honest with you, that's a goal. But it's a journey. It's one step at a time. Are you going to reach this by just like, oh, I learned this great message and boom, now I'm out here, now I'm righteous, now I'm walking? It's a journey. You're going to make mistakes, and then you're also going to exceed bountifully in strides. The path has obstacles to test you. I've been tested. When not very long after I started learning this, I had a situation again where some people who I thought were some of my best friends in the world, who turned against me to the point where I had to leave. My wife and I left. I'm going to be honest with you. My wife and I, for a month, would lay in bed and just bawl and beg God to leave us alone. We've had enough. For some reason, he doesn't pay attention to that kind of prayer, I don't think, because he never answered that. I keep finding myself back doing it again. But now I understand why, because the Creator wants me to be like Abraham's righteous man. He wants me to be involved within the community, the people I work with, the people I go to meet at the grocery store. The lady here the other day, we met on the hiking path and talked with her. The man we run into at the grocery store that we sat next to at the bar down here at the pizza place last weekend, enjoying live music and having some drinks. And now we recognize each other when we see each other in town and stop and say, hey, that's what we're supposed to be doing. For if he does act this way, by the very behavior, he excludes himself. In fact, all the people he is least worthy to be one of those for the sake of the community to be saved. He who had long abandoned the people to their bitter fate, what does he care about the suffering of the multitudes? the demise of the sinners does not touch his heart. Perhaps even with the feeling of satisfaction, he justifies the harsh judgment that falls upon them. This is not the righteous man for whom the sake of Sodom would be saved. Abraham's righteous man. He dwells in the midst of the city. In the midst of the city, in the lively connection with the whole community. He never ceases to admonish and teaching, objecting and warning and rectifying and saving as much as he is able. Doesn't say you're going to be successful, as much as you're able. Remember about the mountain? 2 men was hired to move a mountain, given a shovel and a pail. They're digging away at it and hauling off dirt, and it doesn't seem like they're going anywhere. The one man's like, no, we'll never get this mountain moved. Lays his shovel and bucket and leaves. The other man, he looks at the mountain. He goes, I'm never going to move that whole mountain, but it's my job to do the most that I can, the best that I can. And by the way, I'm getting paid to do it, whether I finish the job or not. I wasn't told to finish it. I was just told to move it. So when we look at the evil that's in our generation today and the wickedness, it's a mountain. Like I said, I'm one of those that gets angry at this stuff before I get anguished. There are certain politicians in our political arena in this country that absolutely cannot stand. And I have to admit, from being a southern boy, we used to do things to those folks like that. And sometimes those thoughts come back. But I have to remember, I can't be that way. The hardest thing to do is to pray for those whom you wish was vanquished. It's hard. But the righteous man of Sodom does it to the best of his ability. He is attentive to everyone and never tires of trying to do the right things. Even if hope for success is slight, which in our situation kind of happens sometimes. He never despairs of man and hastens to undertake any action for the sake of man. For the sake of man. You know, I was there's a young person who used to work where I work at here a few months back. Persons of a different of a I won't say what belief they are at, but it's not one that people agree with a lot, no matter what you're in with. And it produces some very weird stances. And so there was something that happened at work one day, and I told the person, I said, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't do that? I said, you're stealing from God. I said, you're stealing from the employer whom which God gave you the job. So ultimately you're stealing from God. Mm-hmm. And goes on. Probably didn't reach that person, but that didn't negate that when I saw a situation like that, I needed to speak up for what is right. That's what the righteous person does. Today it's so easy to let them just go be on their own. And, you know, there's a saying that goes around, stay in your own lane. Well, that's good and bad. Because the righteous person, yeah, he might stay in his lane, but every now and then he's going to change lanes and see if he can correct the traffic. Like a gardener who lovely tends to a seedling, he does the righteous man. So does the righteous man perceive his task of righting and saving his fellow man. How can he bear to see the destruction of those he nurtured, to whom his soul is so attracted? For the sake of the 50 such men who are found in the midst of the city, all of Sodom might be spared. The sages of Israel say that in the destruction of Jerusalem, the righteous ones who kept the Torah from beginning to end, were the first ones to be slaughtered because they had not been in the midst of the city. They had not protested and had not brought people back to the right path where it was possible. In verse 26, where it says, God replied, if I find 50 in Sodom, righteous in the midst of the city, I'll forgive the entire city. So God responds, even if in the state of Sodom there are 50 righteous, defective righteous, as we now know. Individuals who can publicly live and appear an upright life, and who can even stand up publicly as champions of purity and justice and of humanity. I will spare the sinners, and not merely just for the righteous. The progressive development of evil of the Sodom had not yet come to completion as long as the wicked stopped mere derision, as long as the wicked publicly tolerated the righteous, despite subjecting them to ridicule and insult, as long as the wicked do not prevent the righteous from acting, as long as honesty and the fear of God is regarded as foolish, but not yet criminal, then the wicked have not yet sunk to the lowest possible level. Only when they no longer merely ridicule the righteous, but bare their teeth at them, only when they begin to regard benevolence as a crime, and that's what happened in Sodom. Benevolence was a crime. Against the public welfare, and benevolence is prohibited, impeded, and punished. Only then the evil has reached its culmination. That's when if you start seeing in your city, in your town, if you begin to see in your community, whether small or great, begin to enact laws that goes against charity, that goes against helping the needy and supplying the needs of the city, this is when you need to get involved. You need to do whatever you have to do to get involved to change them laws, to make sure that they don't come to fruition. If you do, your city is damned. Your state is damned. When Sodom enacted its laws and benevolence became criminal, that is when destruction came. And it became so much. There's two examples we have. The land of Canaan was evil. Human sacrifice, child sacrifice, all the things, everything bad. When God told Israel to go into it, they were to drive those people out, but the land survived because they did not prevent benevolence. But preventing benevolence is so bad to our Creator that He annihilated a land until this day is a witness to all humanity what happens when you make laws against lifting the hands of the needy. So the righteous man of Sodom is connected with his community and helping his fellow brother, no matter how great or small. But it also gets involved with the city if it begins to make criminal laws in such a way that it makes helping the needy criminal. Now I'm about to bring this to a close. In verse 30, it says, Abraham said, "Oh, let it not be contrary to my master that I would still speak. Perhaps 30 would be found." He goes on down. Even only 10 righteous individuals, it says, even if 10 righteous individuals would have been found in Sodom and Gomorrah, God would not have despaired the wicked and the sinful. Out of the hope for a better future, He would have spared the whole community for the sake of the future. But where God does not lose hope, man too must gather courage and remain confident, doing this part to stand in the breach for the ultimate triumph of good. And even if is only a lone individual confronting a whole generation gone astray, even if victory is foreseeable only in the distant future, long after he will have been in the grave. This whole dialogue, if we may call it that, between Abraham and the great judge of the earth, in which a creature of the dust dare to address God on the basis of a sense of justice in his heart and wins God's agreement, is a guarantee of the godliness of the voice within us that appeals for justice. Although that we are merely dust and ashes, our basis is dust and our end is dust. Not everything in us is dust and ashes. In this bodily form of dust and ashes lives a spark of the Creator of the universe, an echo of His Spirit, humanity, and justice, and all of the spiritual and the ethical qualities of mankind receives their eternal confirmation through this divine echo in man's heart. And I just want to read a small thing here from the overview of Sodom and Gomorrah. And I know we didn't do the discussion thing a lot, but I wanted to bring this to you tonight because it's so important. So important that we learn from this story of Abraham approaching God in battle, in prayer, and appeasement. And this is what he sees also in the righteous person of Sodom. And it's what we should look forward to as well. This is an eternal message for us all. It says, the sages have given us insight into the sources of the Sodomite iniquity, and at the same time a sobering lesson and elevation of our own behavior. Sodom was concerned in protecting what it had and in not sharing it with others. To do so, it erected a new social code, one that did not stop with charity begins at home, but which erected barriers against the hapless and terror against the helpless, that pronounced a sentence of slow and painful death upon a girl whose only crime was that she secretly gave a crust of bread to a hungry stranger. People can go to frightening lengths to protect legitimate interest. The person or the nation whose eyes turn inward is selfish and concerned for the protection of his own concerns should search long and hard lest he become a sodomite. In the eyes of God, the greatest abomination of all is social contract found on selfishness, descending to cruelty, resulting in perversion of decency. So do we see why righteousness is important? It's not a religion. It's a walk with God. And righteousness can only come from following His instructions. And that journey I mentioned of 1,000 steps, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. One of the first steps is learning what is required of you. What is required of you as a human being? What is required of you that you would become one of those people that Abraham was looking for? And Abraham even reduced his prayer to the point that even if they were defective, if they had doubts, if their righteousness wasn't exactly right where it's supposed to be, would that be good enough? And the Creator said yes. Because even He says, if I find, in the word righteous that even the Creator says back to Abraham was the defective righteousness. Even if I find 50, 30, 10 defective righteous people, I will save the city. You know what's interesting? The Creator already knew all of that. But yet, in his great humbleness, he communicated with Abraham, and Abraham's love for humanity. When you really look inside this story, even though the Creator knew there was not even 10 righteous, he told Abraham, "I'll look." Do you see where the righteousness of Abraham is what we need to, what he understood, and the righteousness that Abraham was talking about was the way of God, doing tzedakah and mishpat, righteousness and justice. Those two things, righteousness and justice. Righteousness and justice, according to the Creator in Ezekiel 17, will save your soul. And so that's how important this subject really is. Again, it has nothing to do with religion. Religion will not even get you there. You can't believe yourself righteous. No one can give you righteousness. Righteousness is something you do or don't do. Wickedness is something you do or don't do. It's all up to you. It's called free will. It's your choice. Whatever you want to do. All right, Scotty, how are we doing?
Good. Great class.
I'm sorry I went over, but I didn't want to break tonight into two classes because it's all tied together.
You're good. I want to add something into this mix. When you come upon someone who is in a mud pit, we've got some things here. I think some people call it, what do they call that sand when you get in it?
Quicksand.
We got some mud pits that if you get in them, you're going to be stuck and you have to have help to get out. And, when you come upon somebody stuck in a mud pit, there's two conversations that's not going to come up. What is your political affiliation and what is your religious beliefs? But compassion will cause you in your heart to change places with that person that is in that mud pit and to feel what it's like to be losing your life.
Right. See, we're created in the image of the Creator, and the spark of His attributes are within us, and compassion and long suffering are His attributes. And when we imitate God and do what God would do, in imitation of God, His attributes, and fulfilling the 7 commandments, the 7 categorical commandments, is imitating God. And we're going to get into that in our next few classes. We're going to show you how this is imitating the Creator and imitating Him, and that's what he wants. And when like you said, when you pull that person out of the mire, that's the same thing we would want if we were in that place.
Yeah.
Any kind of questions or anything come up, Scotty?
Yeah, there's a few, but I'm going to wait and deposit those next week because it's some very good questions and it's going to cause us to have some good conversation.
Okay.
So we'll wait on those. I already texted them and said we're going to bring those up next week. That's a cliffhanger. Please come on back next week. So we're going to cover.
Well, next week again, we're going to be just doing some, answering some questions and stuff, and then, like I said, the first Wednesday in August. August.
Yeah.
We're going to start a short series, probably two or three on it. Depends on how it goes. 7 laws for a beautiful planet. And I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be amazing.
Great.
And I'm doing this on the heels of what we just did, so we can take it on into our personal lives.
All right. Well, Terry, am I ready to make our descent?
We're ready.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for being here in the Zoom room. I want to thank Ronald for being here in Wendell and Galaxy A12. It sounds so Star Trek-y. Yeah. So that's Thomas and, of course, Veronica Port. And Veronica, your name I don't think I mentioned your name. It was on the list, and I lost my place on the list. And after Terry got started, I didn't want to go back, so I'm going to add your name right now to the Sadaka list, honey. So you're on there. So we thank you for being here tonight. Also, Amuela Asher, we call her Yeoman Asher, and it's good to see Chrissy Seaton with us tonight. And of course, my lovely wife Annie Helton, and Zachy is back with us tonight. And I want to just make mention, if I can, I think Amuela done put it over there. Wendy Shepard is listening tonight over on YouTube. She said, "Thank you, Terry. Very challenging." Also, over on one of the Facebook pages, my Aunt Ellie Kessler, and she's listening tonight. And also, Tiffany Self is over on one of the Facebook pages, and I think I'm going to see her this coming Saturday. Sunday in Nashville. I've got an event in Nashville to go to.
I wish I was going. There's just no way for me to be able to go. I mean, Oh, by the way, real quick, I know it's in front of everybody. Scotty, please tell Shannon I said hey and sorry that I couldn't be there.
Okay, we'll do it.
I really wanted to meet her.
Somebody that I wanted to meet, and I've been talking to this person about wanting to meet for quite some time in person. You know, it's one thing when you meet online, but it's another thing when you meet on person. And he texted me and told me he was going to be there, and that's William Hall. And so,
I didn't know William was coming all the way out here. Well, tell him I said hey.
Yeah, he's going to be there. I will. I'll tell him Gomer said hey from
Tell
Tennessee.
him Gomer's from Tennessee. He says hey.
Okay.
Hey, he's in Texas, so that's kind of a pretty good little distance for him.
Yes. So
Because he lives out there. It's probably, you're probably going to fly. If he drove it, it's probably going to be 13, 14 hours.
Yeah, when he gets there, his arms are going to be tired.
His arms are going to be tired. Be flapping.
All right. Well, I'm gonna finish making our descent.
Okay. So, sorry, guys.
No, it's okay. Those of you listening by Power Faith Radio, we thank you again for coming this way tonight, and we want to invite you back next Wednesday night and be with us. And I've had a lot of people that's given us a thumbs up on our programming on Power Faith Radio. We just try our best to play great teaching. We call talk radio. There's no commercials, no other than me saying, broadcasting from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee. You're listening to Power Faith Radio. Other than that, but also those of you that have joined us tonight through a Simple Walk, we thank you so much. If you watch this video in the future on a Simple Walk, please share this video with all your social media platforms. Same thing with those of you that joined us through B'nai Noach Fellowship. We thank you so much for coming this way and watching and listening to us. Please share that video. And Outreach Noah YouTube channel. We're trying to grow that channel to 100, and once we do that, we'll have a few extra perks, and we're trying to reach that. So if you're listening, jump over to Outreach Noah YouTube channel and subscribe to that channel. Hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up. And without further ado, everybody, we love you, and we will see you next week.
Yes, y'all have a good week and a good weekend.
Bye-bye.